I'm Carolyn Ban, and I am a retired college professor. I've worked in a lot of different places. I've lived in a lot of different places, and I came to Pittsburgh in 1997 and fell in love with it and said, I think I have found where I belong, and have never moved since. I'm the chair of the steering committee of a group called Squirrel Stands Against Gun Violence. And that organization came out of and responded to the massacre that happened in the Jewish community on October 27th in 2018. I was at that time the chair of the Social Action Committee at Dor Hadash. We were the people who had reached out to try to help refugees and immigrants, and had connected our congregation with HIAS. And the man who attacked us singled us out precisely because of that work. And I called the group together, the Social Action Committee, afterwards, less than 2 weeks afterwards. And we decided how we were going to respond to the unimaginable thing that had happened. And we said three things. Of course, we're going to continue to support HIAS. Of course, we're going to continue this work. And henceforth, one of our top priorities will be reducing gun violence. That we cannot have respond to an attack on us and our friends without doing something about it. And taking action was, for us, I think, the best way to reconcile ourselves to what had happened and to feel like we were at least making an effort so that that never happens to anybody else. That organization, some people gave us maybe a year, 3 years later, we're still going, we're still strong. We are a program of a larger statewide organization called Ceasefire PA. We are doing all kinds of interesting things. We just put together a clergy council of clergy people across religions and denominations who are willing to stand up and say, this is a moral issue and we cannot live like this and we have to do something about it. And I think people are proud that we've done this. And it allowed us to take leadership in a way that Dor Hadash had not before, and found this new organization to say we are a congregation, and our core value, one of our core values, is tikkun olam, is trying to make the world a better place. One of the things that helped me was the outpouring of support from the whole community. How many people spoke out, came out, worked to support us. Sometimes it was comical and sort of disconcerting because people sent us odd gifts from all over the country. And I like, what am I going to do with this? Where are we going to put this? But we loved the spirit. And we loved the people who came down from, I can't remember where, with a whole bunch of sweet potato pies. I think we like that even better than the people who were sending us crocheted, Afghans and things. All kinds of things appeared. It was amazing. None of us will ever feel as safe afterwards. We will always look over our shoulders. But I think the fact that so much support came to us is really important. At the same time, we are very aware, even painfully aware, that our tragedy, which was shocking and visible and shook people, was it took the lives of 11 people. And we have neighborhoods in this community that are so affected by the awful expression everyday gun violence. I don't like to call it that. That we lost last year in Pittsburgh 100 people to gun violence. And so I think that the outpouring of support was for us. The media came to us, and we tend to ignore the impact on the broader community, and particularly disadvantaged people, people of color. It's just the impact of violence on those communities is tragic, and we are trying to reach out to them and support them. One of the things we're doing is vigils where we honor the memory of the people who have been killed. And we have for several years worked with a group called Moms Demand Action for sensible gun legislation. They're a nationwide organization to do a vigil on the anniversary of this shooting at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, which was one of the most heart-wrenching. And at that vigil, we read aloud the names of all of the people killed in Pittsburgh in the past year to gun violence. We're now moving with the Clergy Council to vigils every 3 months, because we want to call attention to the fact that these people are dying and that we can't forget them. And that's an effort to bring the whole community together and to raise visibility in the media and by going to different congregations to hold these vigils, to highlight the communities that are affected and speak out and try to affect change. The way I heal, I see myself as a leader in a number of ways, and I have been in leadership positions for a good part of my adult life. And I think one of the roles of a leader is caring about the people who you lead. And so when that happens, a lot of my energy immediately was to call the people on my committee to see how they were doing and to try to support them. And that made me feel better, because I wasn't sitting there just feeling sorry for myself or it was just, I had to project that desire to help others outward and use that energy. And there were issues that I had not dealt with, that I had not resolved, about how I felt about what had happened and how I could find language to talk about it, because it's hard to talk about. And I did go to the Jewish Family and Community Services and worked with somebody there. And it was very helpful, very practical. And every once in a while, I'll touch base with her. And I remember after a year calling her and said, let's talk about the long-term impact of trauma on individuals and organizations. I want to know what the literature says about that and how to think about that. So she's been a resource, and I really appreciated that. I think that people do think about healing on a very individual level, and that makes sense. And trauma is very individual, and we have gone through that. But you're right in a sense, in that the whole community was shaken by this, and it did bring the community together. And I mean the whole Pittsburgh community, not just the Jewish community. It did strengthen ties across groups within the Jewish community. And I think for Dor Hadash, which is a small but growing congregation, it cemented our relationship more strongly with other congregations. And, one of the things that we lost was not only the people who were killed, but we lost our sanctuary in every sense of the word. And we had been at Tree of Life for some years, but Dor Hadash has never had its own building. So we've moved around to different places. And Rav Shalom stepped up and said, come here. Don't worry about what you're going to pay. Come here. And they have been terrific. I had read maybe 2 years ago, I don't even remember what I had read. I was reading some history of Jewish women, and it said that the first real bat mitzvah was a woman named Judith Kaplan, whose father was Mordecai Kaplan, very distinguished rabbi, at that point conservative, but really one of the founders of Reconstructionist Judaism, and Dor Hadash is Reconstructionist. And that her bat mitzvah was in March 1922, and this little light bulb went off, and it said, oh, we're coming up on 100th anniversary, we should do something to celebrate. And frankly, in some ways, this is a response to the shooting. And we've been through the shooting, and we've been through the pandemic, and we've been through one damn thing after another. And I said, this is an opportunity for a joyous celebration. And this community needs some joy. And so my motivation was very simple. I wanted to give people joy. And we're doing it at Rav Shalom, which is now our home. And it has cemented our relationship. Their staff has been helping me. They're wonderful people. The Rabbi Sharon Henry has been on the planning committee from the beginning. And one of the things that we're doing the Friday night, March 18th, is for the first time, Dor Hadash and Road of Shalom are doing a joint service. And we're inviting the other two congregations that meet in the building, Tree of Life and Bat Tikva, and we're doing a building-wide service. We've never done that before. We have been getting wonderful response. And it just, and people have been saying to me, can I bring a group of Hillel students? Of course. Can I bring some high school students? For sure. What about seventh graders? Bring them on. This will be wonderful. The person who is our keynote speaker is a woman named Rabbi Deborah Waxman, who is the CEO and president of Reconstructing Judaism, which is the umbrella organization over the whole Reconstructionist movement, all the synagogues, rabbinical school. And she's also a PhD historian who's an expert on Jewish women's history. And she's a fabulous speaker. And I'm saying these young women should see this woman who's one of the top leaders and a brilliant mind and a wonderful, warm person. She couldn't be a better role model. Let's see, here's a book I recommend, America's Jewish Women, A History from Colonial Times to Today. Pamela Nadell. It was recommended to me by one of the people who's been helping us organize this event, Professor Rachel Cranston from the University of Pittsburgh. Good read, good book. I have a whole bunch of books here because I'm writing about the history of the Bat Mitzvah right now for the program books that we're putting together. And it's an inspiring story. Because we have the first Bat Mitzvah, 1922. Did the world instantly change? No, it didn't. It took a long time for the Bat Mitzvah to spread. Were women treated equally in their congregations immediately? No, they weren't. They got Bat Mitzvah, but then they never were called for an aliyah. They could never go up and read the Torah. It was young women who had to say, wait a minute, this isn't fair. It was 50 years from then till the first woman was ordained as a rabbi. It's an ongoing struggle. And I, as a feminist, as someone who is about to turn 80 years old, has been through that fight for my whole life. It's an inspiring story because women had to take the power and say, we really want to be equal members and we want you to respect us as such. Stories I've heard of women who were not allowed to make up a minyan, to pray for their dead. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And it affected people's lives in a whole lot of ways that people were just, and I grew up in the 1950s. I was sent to religious school to a Reform congregation. And I never even thought about the fact that there were no women on the bima. There were no women leading services. There were no, other than I was confirmed. I was not bat mitzvah. And I was on the bima because I had about 2 lines to read for my confirmation, and that was about it. But the first time I walked into Congregation Dor Hadash, I saw three people on the bima, and they were all women. Okay, this is different. This may sound backwards to some people, but I'm about to celebrate my 80th birthday this fall. And for my 80th birthday, I'm going to do an adult bat mitzvah. Well, you're already planning your 80th birthday party and you're already telling all your family and friends from far away and all over the place to come to Pittsburgh for your 80th birthday. If you're ever going to do it, this is the time. And it's been fun. It's been challenging. And I have a wonderful person, a friend from Dor Hadash, who's just starting to teach me how to do the chanting, how to chant Torah. And I'm looking forward to that very, very much. From an anthropological standpoint, bar and bat mitzvahs are what are called rites of passage. They are the passage from childhood to being considered an adult member of the congregation. And that's an important symbolism. Obviously, that's not where I am in my life. In a different way, it's a rite of passage for me into the next phase of my life. I'm now retired. but I like to say I'm retired, but not retiring. And I'm a very active person, and I intend to remain an active person and do what I can. And what keeps me motivated and getting up in the morning is doing work that helps the community broadly. The value of tikkun olam is very essential to my life. And in some ways, this is symbolic to me of my ongoing commitment to the values of Judaism and love of the tradition.